Hello everyone, my name is Cesar Ramirez, and today we are going to be doing a scene breakdown of the Big Sick scene reenactment. First off, if you haven't seen that short scene yet, I will be sure to leave a link up here as well as in the description. Now I'm doing this a little bit different because normally I would post the making of video first, then do the scene breakdown, but because those making of videos take a little bit longer to make, I'm going to then focus on that one next week. So without further ado, let's get into it. So before we open up to the first shot, you'll notice that there was a sound of like the spoon and the bowl just sort of mixing and clinging against each other. That's because I wanted to have some sort of sound effect that'll grab the audience's attention, make them question like, "Well, what is that sound? Like, what is the scene? What's happening?" And I think that's an interesting way to bring your audiences in. So in this opening shot, we have Emily, played by Sarah Ford, and we see that she's eating the cereal, and that's what was making that noise in the beginning when the screen was black. And you can see her face right here is being very observant. She's just sort of glazing over what's happening around her. She isn't quite sure what's going on. She seems like kind of lost. That's what I was trying to go for because I wanted the character to not know what was happening. And then once she finds the pictures and then he comes in and explains, that's when it starts to escalate into this big argument. So we can see right here, this blanket is actually blue, and blue is, I wanted to represent sort of the ocean. And again, she's sort of lost at sea. With the composition, I wanted to have it just look pretty nice. Like I kind of went for like a center framing, sort of like a Wes Anderson type thing where you see her, she's in the middle of the shot. As far as like what she's wearing, like the pajamas, she went for sort of this dark gray, which I think was actually pretty good because it does fit well with the other set pieces of, like I said, like the blue and the gray. There's a nice contrast between that, but it also helps her blend in with this gray blanket here, as well as some of the pillows behind her. So as we move on right here, she's eating the food and she's eating, and then we cut to this extreme close-up of this coffee mug. And the reason I went for this extreme close-up is because I wanted to show the whole meanwhile, this is what's going on. And in this case, we see someone is preparing a cup of coffee. We see him putting in the sugar, stirring it with the spoon. The editing here is being cut sporadically. Like there's the sugar, then it cuts straight to the spoon, then it cuts him tapping out with the spoon. And I did this because I wanted the coffee making to flow like pretty quickly. I didn't want to do like the whole process of him like putting it off to the side, grabbing the spoon in the shot, stirring. I wanted to just have it boom, sugar, boom, spoon, and then boom, tapping out with the spoon. We then cut to who was making the coffee, which in this case is Kumail, played by Adam Trejo. And then we cut back to Emily. She's eating her cereal, and then what I wanted to do was some sort of like motivated movement for her to look at the box. So I told her, when you eat the food, maybe use your arm and point it in the direction of that box. And that way you can have a way to just sort of move your head. And then that's when you can notice that box. Like, what is that box? Why is that there, right? And so you see she's wiping her face. She looks over at the box, and then we have a nice rack focus from Emily to this box. We didn't use like the DSLR that I had. We actually used a fairly higher end camera. We used the Canon C100. We also attached a focus ring to that, and then we were able to mark down Emily's shot in focus, and then the second mark, which was the box. And then it was a matter of me directing him when to rack focus from one to the other. If we back up right here and we just play this right here.
Oh no, I have kite surfing tonight.
So Kumail is obviously, he's making small talk, he's, just trying to be friendly, talking about her friends and all that. For the audience, when it cuts to that, oh no, In Kumail's case, the reason he says "oh no" is because he's talking about like a kite surfing thing, right? So there's like that contradiction between like that "oh no" of what Kumail is, and then the audience is "oh no," like she found that box and she's gonna look at it, and now it's gonna turn into this big thing. So I wanted to then make Kumail literally that center of attention. So to do this, I had like this pole right here in the kitchen, and then I sort of blocked out the one half, and then the other half I used the refrigerator as the other half to then sort of put him in the center. So
Did
see
you
right
know
here, he's
the
still
kids pronounce it?
um, preparing the coffee. And then if you notice right here, the actual coffee mug, it actually says keep calm and carry on. I wanted to do like a lot of like contradiction in this scene. So there's a lot of stuff that's, it says like keep calm, and then there's like some other posters and stuff that tell, uh, that say like relax. There's flowers, there's stuff about family. So there's a lot of stuff that is like very nice and endearing and heartwarming in like this scene that's literally just a big argument scene. We have Emily finally looking into the box of the pictures of Pakistan women. And I really like this shadow right here. Again, it's sort of just like focusing her attention on that box. And I don't think that was intentional. I think that was just the way, like, how we lit the scene versus like the window here where all of the light is coming in. So it just sort of made like this nice shadow with the cabinet, but it made it just seem like that's what her attention is looking at. So I thought that was pretty cool. And then boom, right here we have that extreme close up. And you'll also notice that all of like the shots in the film, they were all on a tripod. That is except for this particular shot. I wanted to show because that's like the turning point. This box filled with pictures of Pakistan women. It's like, why is this in your bedroom? Why do you have this? So it's very like unstable. It's to show like that unsteadiness of just like what's going on, right? And then right here we cut to Emily's reaction, and she isn't like, scared or worried or anything like that. Like right now, she just sort of seems conflicted. This shot right here is pretty similar to when Kumail was talking. You can see right here, it's like it's that same low angle shot. And in this shot, he's more confident. He's just making small talk with Emily. But then when we cut to, back to Emily, she looks very conflicted. So there's like that contrasting personalities there. And
I was gonna tell you about that.
so now we know that Kumail is in that room, and that kind of got Emily's attention. So right here, I wanted to play with the composition, and I wanted to make it seem as though she sort of has like this trapped feeling. So again, just like with the shot in the kitchen, I did some blocking here with the cabinet just to block off like that view and to block off like the window light. And then right here, again, I mentioned like that relax poster because, it's a bedroom, it's a place to relax and stuff, but it's also, in this case, it's a place where arguments are about to be said. And in this case, that's what's going to happen. So then we cut to Kumail's shot, and we see right here the family tree, and that's something that's pretty. That's a reoccurring theme in this film. It's about like family and like this whole like culture clash between Pakistani and whites, and it's a pretty because it's also uh, focused on Kumail's shoulder because that's sort of what he is representing. He's sort of siding with the family and like his mother, and again, that's sort of what the argument is about, like the whole idea that he hasn't told Emily about her to his parents. And again, we have this picture right here of a pineapple, pretty similar to the relax poster on Emily's side, because it's a way to relax, but that's not the case. And for me, the pineapple, when I think of pineapples, that makes me think of Hawaii. And again, it's a place where you would relax. It's not really a place where you would argue and all that stuff because it's Hawaii. But again, it's contrasting or it's contradicting that um, of what's happening in this scene. It's not a relaxing environment. It's an environment that's about to get very heated. And then we cut to this wide shot, which I wanted to feel very distant. So I used like this wide angle lens. I think it was about a 14 millimeter lens. And you see Kumail here. He's sort of hunched over. You have like this little knight here. He's just all by himself, just sort of how Kumail is right here. And it's going to foreshadow later that, you know, Kumail is going to be alone because Emily, in the end of the scene, ends their relationship. I wanted to try to mess with the 180-degree rule, which, if you don't know, it's basically the 180-degree rule is basically a line. It's an imaginary line that is where you should place the camera on either the left or right side, and then you should always keep the camera on that one side. You never want to have the camera on one side and then on the other, because then what's going to happen is that it's going to mess with the eye line of the characters. It's not going to make them seem like they're looking at one another, and it might seem a bit awkward. And I totally, agree with the 180-degree rule, and I usually follow it all the time. But in this particular scene, I wanted to mess with it. I wanted to break it. So we have like the wide shot here. Emily here is placed on the left side, and then Kumail is placed on the right side. So you can see their eye line here doesn't exactly match up. I wanted to show that again, like they're not quite looking eye to eye, because Kumail here has to explain what those pictures represent. So that's sort of what's happening here. He's explaining that, and she's, wondering like about that type of stuff, and she sets the picture down because it starts to get to her that wait a minute. I think like it's starting to become clear to her.
So what does your mom think about you and me then?
So that question right there. So what does your mom think about you and me then? That's like the big question. And as we saw with Kumail's shot, it was done in this, medium close up, and then when it cuts back to Kumail here, boom, it cuts to this close up of Kumail, because this is sort of to show that, oh, he hasn't told his parents about Emily. And he doesn't say that, but he just sort of looks at her very guilty, and he just blinks. What I like about that is when we cut back to Emily, you'll notice a couple of things. For the main thing you'll notice is that now their eye line is matching up with one another. Now it's finally hit Emily that, oh, I get it. You haven't told your parents about me. So there is that, and that sort of blink was just sort of like, it was almost like, I guess, sort of sending her a message like, oh, I get it, and
She doesn't know about me, does she?
so that's just to verify. Finally, she asks that question to verify. You haven't told them about me, have you?
No.
So that answers her question, and this is when stuff's about to go down. And
Fucking 5 months of red flags.
and what I like about this shot is that even though Emily is a bit smaller in frame, she definitely has the dominance in this particular shot. We have right here, then the family, again, because that's what this whole argument is really about. And then Kumail, even though he is bigger in the shot, you'll notice that he's out of focus, and he looks very defeated. He's got shadows right there, so he's definitely the weaker link in this shot, and it is one of my favorite shots in this particular scene. So she bumps again into Kumail, and again there's those flowers right there, and then this is her just like continuing to argue as she packs her things because I wanted to give my actress to do something. Like I didn't want her to just stand there and just argue. I wanted her to like, okay, like now let's have the process of you getting your stuff ready so you can leave the house, because you're not just going to leave the house in your pajamas. I mean, or without leaving all your stuff here. You got to pack all that stuff up. And then we cut to this two shot right here where they're both like arguing. Now, in this case, they're both equal framed because in this particular shot, they both have different things to settle. So Emily obviously is talking about the box of the Pakistan women, and she's mentioning about like, why do you have that? You know what I have in my cigar box? Just stickers and stamps. And then Kumail later talks about how Emily is a therapist and she should have a better handling of this entire situation. So, as you can hear right here,
Aren't you a therapist?
yeah, like, aren't you a therapist? And then again, like, there's that relax poster, again, contradicting what's happening because they obviously are not relaxed. They're arguing. Then there's like this shot here of her looking under the bed, like totally ignoring his question, just like, oh my God, where are my shoes, you know? And she's just trying to get out of there. And we then cut to this shot right here of Emily just again in focus, just saying like, I'm expressing myself. And I just wanted that to be like this big, like just like one of her moments of her having dominant in the scene, just to further drive in like this argument. And then right here, again, they walk off screen, and then she grabs her shoes, a close up of her finding the shoes, and then right here, it's this shot, this two shot, sort of a long two shot, and we have like the flowers here, flowers there, flowers here. And what I liked about this scene is because we filmed this in my house, and the bedroom was actually upstairs, and then this part of the house is actually downstairs. But you would not know that. You would just think that particular living room was in this same floor because we don't see them go down any stairs. The wall colors are exactly the same. So we see them walk out of frame in this shot, and then they walk in frame on this shot, just to have like that movement not, be too distracting or anything. And I think it worked out really well. So as we play through the scene right here, the blocking for this was pretty interesting. So I had our actor Adam come closer to the camera just to further show his point, and then Sarah, who played Emily, come closer to the frame, and then they just argue, and then
I'm
finally
fighting a 1400-year-old culture. You were ugly in high school. There's a big fucking difference.
there's that final nail in the coffin on their relationship. Like there's a big effing difference. And again, just like with that conversation in the bedroom where I broke the 180, right here I did the exact same thing. So they're arguing.
You were ugly in high school. There's a big fucking difference.
So as soon as he said there's a big effing difference, it went from that one side of the room to the other. And then this finally happens, and then it just stops. And to show that, I mean, you have right here the window behind them. You'll notice that it's in the shape of an octagon. And what sign is in the shape of an octagon? A stop sign. And, Kumail realizes this, and then I told him to put his hand over his face just to physically show like that he messed up. And then he says
I'm sorry. I can't lose my family.
that, he can't lose his family. And we can see right here that Kumail is sort of siding with his family over Emily. it finally just reaches to Emily.
Can you imagine a world where we end up together?
I don't know.
So Kumail doesn't know, and then
I have to go. Don't fucking call me.
so that was just like the big don't effing call me. And we did like maybe 5 or 6 takes of this because I really wanted to get like the emotion just right. You know, actors, they come up with different ideas on how to say a scene or a line of dialogue. You know, it's like, oh, hey, maybe can I say this or can I do this instead? And then it's like, oh yeah. So it was a matter of experimenting. And I really just mentioned, I was telling my actress Sarah to say that this is sort of like that final nail in the coffin of that relationship. And I really want you to just send it home because, you know, you're going home now. And I told her, remember, the line isn't don't call me, it's don't effing call me. You know, there's a big difference between that. You know, she understood what I was trying to go for, which is good. You know, as a director, it's good to hear nice feedback from your actors and vice versa. So as the scene comes to a close, we have this wide shot to show that isolation that Kumail now has. Again, we have the flowers here. And again, there's another poster here that's talking about family and, you know, the dream's big, never gives up, you know, like never makes mistakes, you know. So then we have another flower picture here about love. And then we have like this one statue here of a mother holding her child. Again, in this case, it's Kumail's mother babying Kumail himself, even though, you know, she's not here, you know. And, you know, we have like this pink bucket because it's, again, pink is sort of like this love. And again, it contradicts, like that's not in this case, even though it's the color of love and stuff like that. In this case, we just saw like a breakup. So it totally contradicts that. And then the Garrett's popcorn is, you know, because this was a film that was based in Chicago. So Garrett's popcorn, it's actually really good. I'd recommend going there if you come to Chicago. It's awesome. And we see Kumail here walk off screen. And something I want to point out is you'll notice like this shadow right here. As Kumail leaves, you see like this smaller shadow of him. And that sort of looked like a child. And then we have the bigger shadow here of Kumail, or in this case, of an adult figure of some sort. So again, it's sort of like a child and their parent guardian, you know. So I thought that was really cool because again, that's sort of what this argument ended in. You know, he chose the mother over Emily, and we see a shadow representation of that. So I think that was really cool. And then finally, we fade to black. So that is the scene breakdown of the Big Sick scene reenactment. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And yeah.